program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? But can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Hello, everybody. Welcome inside a Friday episode of Running Point on YSNLive.com, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Ty thinks he can just pop in before I intro him. That's cool. Way to go, Ty.
We got
Big
you.
head.
We got you.
Big head. You've changed, man.
I know.
Look at you in the all black.
I know. Rocking it out. Got a little logo here, but yeah, it's a 5K race shirt. Threw it on today too. So.
Awesome. Well, it's Red Friday for me, so
Red Friday, yeah. I'll have the red on later for YSN colors too, so I'll be repping that a little bit later.
gotta rep the kingdom on Fridays. That's how we do in Kansas City. But here in Youngstown, in our area, we have a lot of recaps from last night. We're not gonna, spend too much time on them because it's Friday and it's Football Friday, of course. So, want to remind everybody that all the recap stories, stats from last night's action, it was an eventful night. They can all be found on ysnlive.com. I do want to give one shout out to a record breaker, and that was Riley Simons, who broke the Fitch record for assists in a season, 585 and counting. She is a freshman, and if she has a season like this next year, she'll have 1,000 assists before her junior season even starts.
She's on pace right now to kill 2,000 assists. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible territory to see what she's going through. And I mean, if you haven't gotten a chance to, I've had a chance to talk with her in a player profile. You need to get a chance to see it because the way she speaks as a freshman too, so mature, but she's lived in this sport. And I mean, literally has grown up in this sport from such a young age. So everyone in the Austintown community and the Simons family knew it was going to be kind of a seamless transition from middle school to high school, but no one I feel like around the area was expecting her to be able to step in.
I was like, okay, that's 2 straight seasons where Fitch has lost a senior setter, but now they don't have any juniors that are stepping up. Who's going to set for Fitch? It was a question I asked in our preview. Like when we were previewing the season, I was like, okay, Jocelyn Jordan, Afton Roby, they're all good hitters, but I was like, who's going to set for Fitch? Well, Riley Simons is like me. And she has stepped on the floor and quickly become one of the best setters in Austintown Fitch history. Like that.
Yeah, and it's incredible to see. I mean, freshman talent all over the place too, and it's only athletes are getting better at younger ages, and they're able to contribute at younger ages. So we're getting to an age where freshmen can step in from any sport and be an immediate impact.
That record was held by Emma Bartlett, by the way, who has most of the setting records before Riley came into the scene. Emma still has the career assist record, but if things keep going the way they are, that one's in serious danger too. So that's all fine and dandy. You can find that story and more, like I said, on ysnlive.com. Be sure to check all that out. We had soccer recaps, volleyball recaps, and some golf results from districts yesterday as well. Ty, we have all the football games to preview like we do on every Friday. But before we get to that, there's an interview that we didn't get to yesterday. We didn't get to play yesterday because we had such a great time talking to wonderful people at Mill Creek and celebrating the PGA Hope Foundation event. Honor our Patriots everywhere is what that stands for, and that's what we did yesterday. So we saved the football one for Friday. We have Ben Wilcox, the senior running back for Hubbard, who is leading the team right now with over 550 rush yards on the season. Hubbard off to a 5-2 start on the year, and they are kind of in contention in the 8 still, which is something that a lot of people did not expect out of the Eagles before the season started. I had a chance to talk with him a little bit earlier in the week, and because it's Football Friday and he's one of the stars that you'll see tonight as Hubbard takes on Niles. All these games are mixing together. We'll definitely talk about their game. I think it's Niles, and we'll see you after this interview. Anthony Hartwig here with a Hubbard football player profile. I am joined by senior Ben Wilcox. Ben, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Yep, anytime.
All right, so senior season, what has it been like to kind of just embrace everything and take it in one last time?
It's been a little tough lately, knowing that, I only got a couple games left and even playoffs maybe. So I've just been really trying to take it in, and every Friday, every play I try to go my hardest because I know I'm not going to get that time back.
This is a Hubbard football team that I think in the offseason, a lot of the quote unquote experts, looked at you guys last year, looked at you lost a guy like TC Caffey from graduation, and we're just asking, like, how are they going to have a life without this guy that was, putting the world on fire? But you guys internally have really just found ways to win. Have you guys felt like there's been a chip on your shoulder and you've had to kind of, go out there and almost prove yourselves to other people every time you go out on the field?
Yeah, I felt like we definitely had a little chip on our shoulder, especially on the offensive side of the ball, because without TC, a lot of people thought they're not going to be able to move the ball or anything like that. So I feel like a lot of people on our offense, especially the whole line, had some chips on their shoulder, and our defense too. I felt like they had a really big chip on our shoulder because I feel like a lot of people thought we lost so many on the defensive side, and I felt like game one and throughout that we've been really aggressive as a defense and been a pretty good defensive unit.
Yeah, this defense is really doing things well. What do you think are some of the keys to the defensive success, and how have you managed to really handle a lot of explosive offenses so far?
I think of a lot of it is with our D line. I think we have a really great D line. People like Nick Bowser really interrupt what quarterbacks, running backs, what teams want to do, and we also have really good linebackers with Mason Hodge and Yanni Asmahalis, who really good tacklers, feel really good, really fast too. They're gonna get you down after 2 yards and tackle for losses. They're just really good guys to have on that defensive side that make it hard for those good offenses to run their plays they want to.
When the defense is playing so well, does it take pressure off you guys on offense to know that you don't have to play a perfect game or score, 35 points? You just have to go out there and find ways to put a couple of drives together and do enough to win the game?
It definitely does. When we have a good defense like we do, and we know we're going to stop those offenses, it definitely lets our offense have some room to relax and know maybe one stop, or if we don't score a touchdown here, that we are going to be okay because our defense is just going to get us the ball right back, and we're going to have many opportunities to score on offense.
You kind of step into a leadership role this year and a senior leadership role, not just statistically, but also mentally, emotionally, and energetically. How has that kind of gone for you? And how do you embrace the leadership, and what kind of leadership qualities do you bring to the table?
I think I bring, I wouldn't say aggressive, but a little bit of aggressive. Like when it's game time, I really want everybody to be, focused in, knowing what they got to do to win, especially during practice. I want everybody doing what they're gonna do for the game, right? Making sure that we're 100% on what we're doing, and especially guiding everybody to help them out. If my teammates doing something wrong, tell them what they could do, or something that they can think to really, help them, and just help out the team the best I can, and really show them and get them focused in.
Who were some guys that showed you how to lead in the early stages of your career, and you've kind of leaned on as examples now that you're a leader of this team?
I was in 8th grade, and Lucas Masora was a really good leader his senior year, and I was a ball boy, so I really saw him. And people like TC was a good leader. Tommy Cease last year too was a really good leader for us. Also, Tommy West, my freshman year, was a good leader. So we had a couple good leaders about every year for us, and seeing what they did, I always got inspired by what they said and what they did, so I really want to take after what they did.
What was the biggest form of advice that you heard in your early years on this team that have helped you out now that you're an upperclassman?
Probably really put in the work and really actually put in that work, because if you don't put in the work, then you're not going to be as good as you think you are. A lot of people from other schools are going to go in there and do their thing in the off season, during the season, all that. And if you're going to do nothing, then you're not getting better.
You have a fantastic coaching staff as well that has helped a lot of players do a lot of great things. How have they helped you, and what kind of things have you learned under this coaching staff?
I learned a lot of things. They really helped me learn the game of football and really be smart with what I do, whether it's offense or defensive side, and just certain techniques that are really the next level that really help me out in games that I can do and just help us be a better team.
When you look at yourself as a freshman and you compare it to yourself now, what do you think is the biggest growth points that you've had over your career?
I think definitely my knowledge on both sides of the ball. Uh, Being a safety, I gotta call the coverages and all that type of stuff. And thinking freshman year, I didn't really know all that stuff, and now I'm here calling, knowing everything I'm supposed to do. And the offensive side, just knowing all the plays. I didn't really know all my plays. The offensive, all my freshman year on the offensive side of the ball, and now I'm telling guys where to line up, who to block, what to do. And so just really my knowledge in the game.
How much work have you really put into mastering that craft and to being able to be where you are now?
I feel like I've put a lot of work. Definitely watched a lot of film and just seeing what other guys have done, and try to really make things more simple for myself and others, so that we can play faster and just be better.
Out of all the things that you've been able to accomplish in your career, what are you most proud of on the football field?
It's a tough one. Um, there's a lot of things, but on the football field as a team, I would say last year's game against Poland, just the way we rivaled back, down so much at halftime, just was easily one of my greatest games ever that I've played in and been a part of with a team like that.
What were some personal goals you set for yourself this year and that you wanted to achieve before the season ended?
I definitely wanted. I set some goals like 1,000 yard rusher and certain amount of tackles on defense, and I'm definitely getting there. Got a couple more games left to go, and hopefully I do get there, and I think I will.
And you like you said, you have a couple of more games to play. This team has so much still in front of them. What's been the mindset the last couple of weeks and trying to stay focused and really stay sharp against a really tough and neat schedule?
Just really stay focused, stay on our game, because these next games are really important to us if we want to make the playoffs and try to at least make a run after week 10. So we really got to stay focused and do what we do and come out aggressive and knowing what we're doing.
After week 3 or week 4, whatever this point was, when you guys really start to realize that you're putting together a pretty special season, what was the mindset like in the locker room, and did it change to be a little bit more aggressive or a little bit more enthusiastic after 3 or 4 weeks when you guys looked around and realized that the results were coming out the way you wanted them to?
It was definitely more enthusiastic. Like, we knew that what we had going on, and then we knew that we were a pretty good team despite everything that was being said and all that. And so we really just kept going with that and doing what we did and getting better every day, every practice.
How are you able to stay confident on the football field through any type of adversity that you might have to face?
I just think of what I can do and what I can do best for myself, and help each other out, help my teammates out, and tell them what to do, and to stay tough, stay strong, stay focused, even if we're down or anything like that.
We know Friday nights are kind of pageantry, and there's a lot of atmosphere to a Friday night, especially in Hubbard. So, what are some of your favorite parts of Friday Night Lights and being able to just be a part of that atmosphere?
Definitely the crowd. We come out of the locker room. we're standing waiting for the band to call us up to go to the sideline. It's definitely the crowd, standing the Eagle in the home crowd, and just seeing everyone excited there to watch us play.
When you're looking in the crowd, is there anyone that you try to look for and spot every night?
I usually don't look for anybody. Sometimes my mom, but nah, I'm so focused in I don't even realize or look.
Have you been kind of taking those moments and that atmosphere in more this year since you're a senior?
Yeah, I definitely have. It's it's definitely been tough, being a senior. So I really just try to take it in best I can.
When you inevitably play your last game with Hubbard, what are going to be some of your best memories with this team and biggest takeaways of being a part of this program?
My best memories probably just, these past 2 seasons with the guys I grew up playing with, know my whole life, and just gonna miss that with them. And the biggest takeaway is just, work hard for anything in life. You're gonna get to where you want if you work hard.
The end of your football career is not the end of your athletics career. You still have a multiple sport athlete slate. You keep yourself busy. What's it like transitioning between sports for you?
It's definitely a little tough because after that first month of football, you're so tired out from just everything that you just want to rest. But then I play baseball, so it's like I got to get in the gym for baseball and get ready for that because that's just I really after football. That's something I really want to focus on this year.
Which one is your favorite, football or baseball?
Probably football. Just love running around with everybody, all my guys like that. But I still love baseball so much.
What's your favorite thing about being a football player and being able to kind of call yourself a Hubbard Eagle?
Just the brotherhood, really. Being around all my friends that I've known forever, been since kindergarten, played since I was 8, 9 years old. Just being with all them.
What do you think is the biggest form of adversity you've had to face in your career?
Probably last year's polling game at halftime, we were down so much, and definitely the South Range game last year.
And how have you kind of bounced back from that? What kind of things do you do to bounce back from adversity in life?
I really just try to focus on what I can do and really focus in on me and what I'm able to do to fix it and just try to get better. And especially with football, try to help my teammates get better and really get them focused in.
All right. So as we talk about you off the field, we know that you're a football and baseball player. But if you had to think of any other sport that like you kind of look at and say, "Man, I kind of like to throw my hat into that ring," or "I like to kind of try that sport," what sports come to mind?
I used to play basketball, so maybe basketball and golf. I really been golfing a little bit, so maybe those two.
What is one like recreational sport that you like, or backyard sport, I should say? What's your favorite backyard sport?
Definitely basketball. I love just going with my friends playing basketball somewhere. Doesn't even matter if it's just in my driveway. Just it's fun.
How would you kind of rate your basketball skills, especially if it's this one-on-one in a driveway?
Probably like a 7. I'm more of a defender, but here and there I can shoot the 3 ball a little bit.
When you think about some of the things that you like to do outside of sports, what are some of your hobbies that you have?
I like collecting football, basketball cards too, playing video games, um, just that type of stuff.
What is the like the treasured football or basketball card that you have, like your most proud part of your collection?
I don't know. Probably pretty sure I got Zeke Ohio State jersey card that's pretty nice. I think is my favorite probably.
Is there one out there that you're like looking for, or you're like, man, I really want this card?
Uh, Not really. I mean, I don't know. I'm not like that type of guy. I think old cards look good. Those expensive ones sometimes I'm like, dang, they look nice, but I think old cards look nice, even though they might not be worth anything.
You said it. You're a gamer. What kind of things do you play on the sticks?
I usually play some multiverses, 2K, Madden, MLB, Fortnite, the Call of Duty, those type of games.
When you're playing those sports games, the Madden, the MLB, and the 2K, what's like the go-to teams in each of them? Like, what's the go-to team in Madden? What's the go-to team in 2K? And then what's the go-to team in MLB The Show?
Madden. I like the Bills. I like the Bills in Madden. Just something about them. I really like them. 2K. 2K probably the Heat. I like Jimmy Butler, so usually I go with the Heat. MLB. Ooh, MLB's tough. I'd probably go with like the Blue Jays. I really like the Blue Jays. They're a pretty good team.
What team do you watch that you get the most passionate about when you're watching their games?
Definitely the Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers for sure.
Who is your favorite Pittsburgh Steeler of all time?
Oh, of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Probably either like Troy Polamalu or Big Ben probably.
And we'll bring it back into the high school realm. You know, you go up against a lot of great athletes. Who do you think is the toughest guy you've ever gone up against?
Toughest. Oh, that one's tough. Oh. There's a lot. Poland, Jack Fulton for sure.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good athlete. Nick Bengala of Girard. He's really good. He's a good athlete. Billy Skripak. Definitely a lot out there, though. There's a lot of good athletes that play.
Is there anyone that you kind of know off the field that you would love to have the opportunity to play with?
Oh, yeah, probably Billy Skripak. I know him a little bit. I mean, we're not close. I've talked to him before, but probably him. He's a good quarterback, smart guy.
When you think about some of your greatest things about being a Hubbard Eagle in your mind, I should say, when I ask you what it means to be a Hubbard Eagle, what are some of your answers to that?
Just really being a Hubbard Eagle is, being tough, being I don't know how to explain. Just being a guy, I guess you could say.
Before we let you go, I want to give you a chance to shout out your support system and all the people that have been there for you throughout the years.
I'd like to thank, my family, my mom, my dad, all my aunts, cousins. I like to thank my teammates for sure, especially my O-line, D-line, all of them, Nick Bowser, Ben Chaney, Mason Hodge, Yanni Asmahalis, Mike Bauer, all of them, great teammates, great guys. And, I don't think I'd be where I'm at today without them.
All right, Ben, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We wish you the best of luck the rest of the season, and we look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that was Ben Wilcox. I'm sorry, I accidentally knocked you out of the
Yeah, I was
studio
like, what are you doing here? We're all good.
Get out.
We're all
but that was Ben Wilcox of Hubbard, and like I said before the interview, he's one of the facets of their offense. He has over 550 yards in the season so far, going into week 8. Hubbard is 5-2, and he's one of those guys that has stepped into the limelight. And like I said in that interview with him, a lot of the quote unquote experts, who were wondering, what's Hubbard going to look like without TC Caffey? What's their offense going to look like? And while it hasn't been like last year where they were lighting the world on fire and scoring 35, 40 points per, the offense is moving the ball. They're finding ways to score when they need to. And then their defense is just taking care of the rest. That's why Hubbard is 5-2 right now.
Yeah, and I mean, that's exactly why they find ways to win down the stretch. And I mean, they're able to come away with those close victories more times than not. And it's because they've been there, done that before. There are a lot of experienced players on this squad, and it's just an experienced program as well. It might not be a program that always made the playoffs, but it's a program that most of the times, as far as I can remember, usually had winning seasons. It was usually a respectable program that, you can't go in there. It's never an easy win. It's always going to be a tough game against Hubbard.
Yeah, it definitely will. And they're going to have a tough game tonight as they battle in that NE8 again, which will give us a segue right into our Friday football previews like we do every Friday. And Ty, because your team is on the road, we start with you guys because we do this in the alphabetical order based on the road team, just like it is on our live games page and our games at a glance. So Austintown Fitch will travel to Wadsworth. We know this is a big game tie for the Ysn fans that don't follow Wadsworth. Give us the scoop on them and what you think they'll bring to the table tonight against the Falcons. Muted.
They're 5-2 on the season, and looking at the season too, they've only allowed 107 points in those 7 games too. So they've been pretty efficient, I think, on defense, considering the teams that they've had to face too. These wins in recent weeks, coming against Nordonia and then Stowe Monroe Falls High School too, and big wins in that too, 49-3 in that victory. As Wadsworth sitting at 5-2, so it's 5-2, hosting 6-1, and I don't think you can get really much bigger than this right now. And it's a nice primetime matchup. Division I Wadsworth hosting in Division II Austintown Fitch. The 2 losses that Wadsworth has on the season to Medina and to Hudson. Medina right now on the season is 6-1 on the year, with their 1 loss coming against Avon, and Hudson is undefeated right now. And we know with Hudson too, Hudson is one of those teams that has been great defensively too. It was a 17-7 loss for Wadsworth in that one, so they really hung with the Explorers in that one.
And correct me, but this is the last Fitch road test of the season, correct?
It is, because they host Harding and Boardman the next 2 weeks, or Boardman then Harding, the next 2 weeks at home. So they'll return home. They've been on the road actually 3 consecutive weeks now, after going to Massillon, Washington 2 weeks ago, and then to Strongsville last week. But this is going to be a tough test for them. This is a Wadsworth team that they know how to score. They have a great defense, and again, it's Division I football, and maybe one of the toughest Division I tests that they've seen all year.
Could be. It's going to be a fun one in Wadsworth.
Yep.
As Fitch tries to keep pushing.
Only the 3rd time they're meeting up too. 2-0 all-time Fitches, and it was a 38-28 game last year.
Well, we don't want to ruin that perfect record.
Yeah, hopefully not, right? Hopefully not for YSN's sake, right?
Let's go into the next one. Camo Memorial will be at Champion. Brian Oatridge will have the call there. 7:00 is the kickoff time. Champion, a tough loss. No, wait. Yeah. Last week.
Liberty.
To Liberty, that one that just went bonkers. Liberty was able to win on that 2-point conversion, 35-34. So now Champion, kind of like we've seen Camel, they just have the worst timing with their schedule. They're always getting good teams off of losses. Champion's going to be really angry in this game, and I think Camel's going to have to feel the brunt of that frustration.
Yeah, Champion's fighting for playoff life right now, guys. They're number 15. And, I mean, there's not really anyone in that Division 5 spot other than South Range who has clinched a playoff spot. Everyone else is controlling their own destiny. Garaway, Perry, they're all teams that are likely going to be clinching playoffs.
They've clinched it. Let's be real.
Control your own destiny on Joe Itell essentially means they need to win like a game. If they can win a game, they've gotten themselves into the playoffs too. So this is, but for Champion, they're number 15, and they have about a half-point differential between them and Lakeview at 16, and about closer to a full point differential between them and Crestwood at 17, but not safe in the slightest as Champion at 15.
The good news for Champion in that spot is, one, Lakeview has Poland this week, who is coming in hot, and they're also on a little bit of a slide right now. So that team right behind them, not showing too much of a threat, and then Crestwood, you got a full point ahead of them. So Champion should go into week 9 still in a playoff spot.
Liberty is number 18 in that ranking though, so Liberty is right below them and trying to climb in as well, and they just got that win on Champion.
And Liberty, just because how much of a gap is it between Crestwood and Liberty?
Crestwood and Liberty less than a half point.
Right. So you look at that, you look at the fact that the Lakeview is struggling right now. Liberty has a good chance to sneak into the playoffs as well.
They absolutely do. And I mean, it's a schedule that kind of favors them. I mean, the next couple weeks, Garfield at the last week of the season is obviously going to be a tough test, but Newton Falls this week, LeBray next week. I mean, it's favorable for the Leps.
Canfield returns to action as they travel to East They were off last week because that cancellation by Rhodes from Cleveland. So Larry Scragg will be on the call from Rain Stadium. 7 o'clock kickoff there as Canfield tries to avoid any kind of rust from a week off, and I don't think they'll have any. So it should be a good night for the Cardinals. Speaking of another Cardinal Mooney will travel to Warren Harding, and they're on a streak. They've won a lot of games in a row, and 7 o'clock is the kickoff time for this one. Dom O'Brien will have the call. Warren Harding finally was able to make those game-winning type plays that we've been talking about all season last week. Unfortunately, it came at Boardman's expense. So you wonder if they can be consistent with that. I think this game will be close. Can Warren Harding continue to make those game-winning plays that they've struggled with for the last 2 seasons, or can Mooney kind of stop them from doing that and get a win?
It's going to be the interesting question going to Mollenkopf Stadium. I mean, Mooney's been able to establish themselves defensively as a tough-nosed team to score against at times, and that's what they're going to have to bring in. They've won games based on their defense, but what really is the difference maker is Ashton O'Brien behind center. Is when when he gets that motor running on offense too, Mooney's a complete machine, and they can win ball games against the best of them.
Yeah, and while we talk about Ashton O'Brien and as impressive as he's been this season, let's not forget about Mooney's defense that has just been ridiculously good this year. And the reason why they've won games, I think the most points they've allowed is 28 to Lindsley on the road to West Virginia.
I believe you're right, and that's a good Lindsley school too over there in West Virginia as well.
And that was a game they were up 14-0 at halftime, and they let slip away. So.
Yeah, it was just it was a collapse, and you have those games sometimes where everything just falls apart, and that just turned out to be the case for Mooney.
We're not going to go too far into it, but I do want to just kind of put it there and then leave it there. Mooney is now 3-4 on the season. They had to list the game against East earlier in the season as a forfeit. So now Mooney flips to 3-4, still in the playoffs. East now has a win on their schedule. So we're just going to leave that there and do that with Will, but it is news, and we do have to kind of report it.
It is breaking news because it does affect the rankings in some form and fashion. Mooney's still number 12, though, in Division 5, so they still have an opportunity.
And when they're playing teams like Warren Harding, they'll be okay. They can still gain a lot of points.
A win against Warren Harding would do wonders, I think, for Mooney at this point. Even with Warren Harding being 2-5 right now, I still think that win up 3 divisions against Harding would be big enough for Mooney to really, maybe not clinch a spot, but really help themselves to the playoffs.
All right, we move on to the next game. This is a big one in the EBC. If Salem wants any hopes of kind of staking a claim or a chance at the EBC championship, they need to beat Carrollton. They come into Salem tonight. The Warriors are sitting right at the top with Alliance and West Branch still with that one loss on the season. So Carrollton looking to keep pace. And then when you have West Branch, we'll talk about them a little bit later, but they play Alliance. So a lot being decided tonight in the EBC.
Yeah, and I mean, this is going to be an interesting game. Carrollton coming in 5-2.
5-2, excuse me. But
yeah,
still one loss. No, they're still in the conference. They're fine. That's
yeah. One loss in the conference. Yeah, in the against Alliance. Their other loss came against Garraway. So 2 really good teams that Carrollton's dropped to.
Garraway is a very good Division 5 team. If people don't know.
Yeah, Garraway 7-0 also on the season, and Alliance at 6-1. So their 2 losses on the season came against 2 teams with a combined 1 loss on the year. So
no big deal.
Yeah, it's pretty competitive football that Carrollton's been playing, and the wins that they have had, some of them haven't even been close. In forms like St. Thomas Aquinas, a 63-6 game. Garfield, not our Garfield, Division 2, Garfield out in Akron, 49-18. And Garfield. Yeah, Marlington was a 36-14, but they are coming off of a loss against Alliance. Can Salem what kind of Carrollton team is going to show up? Are we going to get a motivated bunch after that loss, or are they going to be kind of hanging their heads low? We've seen teams that have gone both ways. Which Warriors team are we going to get?
Ty, what was the final score of that Alliance Carrollton game?
It was 47-14 Alliance. Alliance really put it.
Every matchup is different. We all know that. But if you want to play the numbers game and want to compare the opponents, Salem lost 41-31 to Alliance. So the defenses gave up a comparable amount of points, but Salem was able to score a lot more on Alliance than Carrollton was. Now, that does have to do with the style of offense Carrollton runs. They are a run-heavy offense, and if you get them behind, they're not built to score in fast kind of comeback fashion. So they probably were put in positions that were not good for the offense that they run. So that is a caveat to that, but still, Salem was able to score 31 on Alliance's defense, and Carrollton was only able to score 14. Take that for what it's worth if you're picking tonight's games.
You got to figure, though, that tape looks pretty valuable because Alliance and Salem pretty similar offensively and how they can play. So that tape's looking pretty valuable, I think, last week with what Alliance did against Carrollton. So if you're Carrollton right now and you're the Warriors, you're definitely looking to shore some things up.
As our views come trickling in, I want to remind people, if you have comments or if you have thoughts on these matchups, we'd love to hear from you in the comments section, or even picks. You can pick. We don't pick until the power hour, but you can pick all you want in the comments. We'd love to hear who our fans think will win these games. But that is Carrollton at Salem. 7:00 is the kickoff. Matt Mowry and Jared Niederheiser will have the call there. A little bit later on today, you can also go to ysnlive.com/ not slash, but just ysnlive.com and check out a new player profile from Salem and a new coach's corner with Ron Johnson. Just got them emailed to me right before the show. So that's one of the first things on my list to get up on the website after the show is over. So don't miss that either. Cheney will travel to Howland. 7:00 kickoff as Cheney hot off their win over Painesville Harvey. Coming into Howland hot. Howland won last week as well, 3-0 over East in a defensive grudge match that was just a old school 1922 type football game. So Cheney comes into Howland, and the Cowboys are riding high after that one loss in the season.
And Cheney, really, they got Howland, they got Harding, they got East. Now, looking at Joe Eitel, too, according to Joe Eitel, the highest spot that Cheney can get is their current spot at 3. The lowest spot that they can get is obviously a lot further, but the lowest spot they can get if they win out, I should say, is 4. So they can be a top 4 team, and that's going to be the key for Cheney, is looking at these next 3 games, all opponents with losing records, and say, if we win out, we could be a top 4 team, meaning we could host the first 2 playoff games.
So is Joe Eitel saying that literally if 1 and 2 lose out and Cheney wins out, they still can't get into the top 2?
No, that's if all of them win out. That's if all of them win out.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you mean the highest they can get is 3? What if the other 2 just implode?
No. Sorry, I should have prefaced that. If the other teams win as well, this is the hypothetical scenario. If they all win out, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
So, but for Cheney to know that even like if you control your own destiny, you just win your games. Even if all the other teams are winning around you, you could still host the first 2 playoff games. I think that's huge for the Cowboys.
This is an interesting end of the schedule, Ty, because it's 2 games that on paper you think Cheney is the better team, sandwiched into a really tough Warren Harding team.
It is
so like you talk trap game. Is this game against Howland a trap game? I don't know. I don't really buy into trap games too much. In high school, it's a little bit more relevant because you can tend to look ahead. I think sometimes, when you talk about trap games in the professional level and the college level, the parity in that level is so big that sometimes a good team just shows up and gets beat. I don't think it has too much to do with, the whole narrative of, we looked ahead. I think that's just an excuse. But in high school, I can see it a little bit more because they're kids, and it's obviously a little bit more understandable if they're, thinking about Warren Harding and they don't really take the respect to Howland. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Howland's a good team, but I think Cheney this whole year has proven all the people that said they're not a disciplined team. They're not a disciplined team. I think they've kind of done away with that whole narrative. And I think they'll go into tonight. They'll be disciplined. And if Howland's going to beat them, it's not going to be because Cheney was looking ahead.
I don't think, Cheney hasn't played with that sense of they aren't fully there, or this isn't 100% Cheney team. Even in their loss to Ursuline, are there plays that could have gone the other way that could have been Cheney's victory? Absolutely. But what I'm saying is that wasn't a less than 100% Cowboys team effort wise that you saw on the football field against the Irish. Like that's what you've seen from the Cowboys since week 1 to week week 7, and going into week 8, you're going to see the same thing against the Tigers tonight.
And that was the only game of the season where Cheney had undisciplined mistakes with penalties and stuff on defense. They gave Ursuline some more field advantage. So when you have one of those games out of 7, you can say it's an anomaly. If they like the last year and the years before, it was like 5 or 6 out of 7 games, they'd be like, okay, we're gonna have some silly mistakes here and there, or some undisciplined plays. They've done away, like I said, they've done away with that narrative. Every team's gonna have one game like that, maybe where they make a couple of silly mistakes, or they lose a little bit of discipline on defense, or discipline with penalties. But the fact that it hasn't been a consistent storyline this year, I think, has completely done away with that narrative from Cheney that, oh, they're an undisciplined team and they'll find ways to beat themselves. I don't think that's the case anymore.
I think, even the professional teams have those blunder weeks where they just, they're not themselves too. I mean, you can attest to. You just saw Kansas City against Indianapolis.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, not look themselves. But I mean, if it happens at the professional level, it can definitely happen in the high school level. The biggest thing is Coach Antrim has done a great job of limiting, like you said, limiting those kind of mistakes, those mental errors, and really bringing discipline into this Cowboys program. And credit the players too, because they've really worked on it. They've really worked on the mental side of the game as well as the physical. We already know they're athletic out of the wazoo, but they barely focus on the mental game. And they've turned into a juggernaut.
Real quick, you know what I love about Coach Antrim has done with this Cheney team, and I don't know what he did. I don't know what his routine was, or what his method was to get this done. But Cheney hasn't lost any of their kind of grit, swag, confidence, whatever you want to say, their attitude. Haven't lost any of that. But what they've done is they've taken that, they're able to still have that and have very disciplined, football. So that's really cool, because usually, you let kids go be themselves, then that's when they find ways to make undisciplined mistakes, taunting, stuff like that. Cheney has, they still have that swagger to them, right? They still have that confidence, that attitude, that grit, that Youngstown City kind of, we're going to come in and knock you down and punch you in the mouth kind of attitude. But now they do it with discipline, and they do it in between the whistles. And I think that's what Coach Antrim has really done so well with this program. He hasn't put a leash on these guys, or a reins, but at the same time, he's kind of narrowed their focus in to just during the whistle. And I think that's what's been great about what Coach Antrim has done with these Cheney Cowboys. It is time for our first break of the day. We're going to pay some bills. When we get back, we have many more football games to preview on the Friday slate. Don't go anywhere on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoney County.
On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
From on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
As fine as the eye can see, the finest hardwoods from the finest trees. Made for your home and within your means, Baird Brothers will help fulfill your dreams. Let life and light come shining through in quiet morns. And heavy traffic, too. Find your easy-to-afford fine hardwood floors and doors and more at BairdBrothers.com.
Every customer has a story, and at Greenwood Chevrolet, we are committed to making sure it ends with you in the right vehicle. I get to be part of somebody's adventure, whether it's buying a car for the first time, helping them get approved, or finding the perfect car for their budget. I'm proud that people trust me with their finances. They trust me to take care of them, and they trust me with their story. I'm Tracy, and I'm ready to go the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Locally owned and operated, Sheely's relaxed shopping experience means browsing and lounging is always encouraged.
Find Flex Deal and more at Sheely's Furniture and Appliance, because the best things in life happen at home.
How lucky are we to have not one, but two 18-hole Donald Ross Championship golf courses right here in our backyards. Mill Creek Golf Course was selected by Golf Week as one of America's 30 best municipal courses, continuing to challenge golfers of all levels and featuring golf instruction by PGA professionals, a state-of-the-art practice range, a PGA of America recognized pro shop, kids programs, and a relaxing grill room for a memorable golf experience. For more information or to schedule a tee time, visit millcreekmetroparks.org.
Fall is in the air. The kids are back to school, crowds are cheering for the home team, and Myers Family Insurance is prepped for another crazy Medicare season. Every year there's changes, some big, some small, so it's important to have a conversation to make sure your plan is going to meet your expectations for the coming year. Give our team a call today to schedule your annual review.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance or visit us on the web. Check us out online at myersfamilyins.com.
Going from mindful to mindful sometimes requires a helping, healing hand. Insight Clinical Counseling and Wellness offers a continuum of mental health and wellness care. At Insight, we're changing the way you receive counseling and wellness services with experienced licensed clinicians and expertly trained wellness staff. With 4 locations in Mahoning and Columbiana County, along with telehealth services, Insight offers clients quick access to care when they need it. Transform your mental health and wellness at Insight Clinical Counseling and Wellness.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Hartwig alongside Ty Bartell as we continue to preview the Friday slate of football action. Ty, we left off with
Cheney Howland.
Cheney at Howland, and we go right into the 4-4-0 and goal game tonight as Conneaut travels to Pymatuning Valley. And the one thing about these two teams is it's going to be physical. We've seen Conneaut before, especially in the first 3 weeks of the season. They were physical. They ran the ball extremely well. And we've been able to see Pie Valley a couple of times this year too. And they're a big team. And not just – and I'm not talking big depth-wise because they're not a big school or a big program as far as numbers, but big as far as their offensive line is big. They're built. They're mean. They will push you around. So if you're watching this game and you like old school football where they're pushing each other around and they're blocking each other and it's just kind of gritty physical football, you're going to like this game. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be low scoring. Both these offenses can definitely score at a high clip. But it should be a very physical and very tough game, especially on the ground.
And for Pie Valley, too, I mean, it's honestly been a tale of two halves of a season almost to this point, and they've really turned their season around. They started off 0-4, Ant, and they ended up winning these last 3 weeks against St. John's School at Ashtabula St. John, Fairport Harding, and then Wyndham. So right now, Pie Valley is sitting at 14 in Division 6, Region 21. So they got themselves into the playoffs after starting off 0-4. Credit the Lakers for getting themselves into position, but Conneaut at this point 5-2 on the season, and some of these wins that they have too, big wins against like a Rootstown team that was 5-0 at the time, or 4-0 at the time, I think. Excuse me, when they beat them. So beat an undefeated Rootstown team during the season. Also, we remember, like you said, that overtime win against Western Reserve. That was a close one too, where we got introduced to Conneaut. But ever since that loss to Edgewood, they lost a close one to Northeast Pymatuning, Northeast PA, excuse me, Northeast PA and Edgewood, but a combined 3 points has separated them with their 2 losses.
Yeah, and that Edgewood game was our week 1 kind of introduction to 4-4-0 and goal, and that was a nuts game. They lost on the last second.
It was. And I mean, this last game too, again, similar score, 14-12. They lost to Northeast PA. Like I said, 2 very close, less than a field goal difference away for the 2 losses on the Conneaut Spartans this year. So they've looked really good out there in Ashtabula County.
Yeah, and you look at Pie Valley, they've won 3 in a row, not taking anything away from that, but their 3 opponents, like, now it's real. Like, this is a Conneaut team that's probably better than any of those 3 that they beat in the last 3 weeks. So this is like where Pie Valley either backs up that 3-game winning streak or they show it was fool's gold.
It's yeah, and for them it goes Conneaut, a Toronto team that's 4-3, but we know is a solid enough football team that you have to be aware of, and then 6-1 Matthews. So not an easy end of the year schedule at all for Pie Valley.
Not at all. The Lakers look to get a big win tonight. It would pay dividends. Any win they can get before that big stretch of games to close out the season would be big for the Lakers. Conneaut looking to spoil as the road team. That'll be 4-4-0 in goal on the call. 7 o'clock is your kickoff time. Boardman, after the heartbreaker last week, and this was a game that we were talking about last week, Boardman needed to win because of the fact that after that Warren Harding game, their next 3 games are just tough because they have Dover tonight, Canfield, Fitch. Is it that order?
Yeah. Dover, Fitch, Canfield.
Dover, Fitch, Canfield.
I know. I'm trying to automatically put in Fitch at week 10, but it's not. It's Harding and Fitch at week 10 last few seasons.
All right. So, that's why that loss last week really just has to sting Boardman. I know they stayed in the 16th spot, right? So they're still in 16, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they still are alive right now.
So they didn't move. They didn't drop, at least in that loss. But now you got it. They can't lose 3 in a row and stay in the 16. There's no way. So they have to win Dover, Canfield, or Fitch. And that's going to be a tough task. Dover comes in. We saw what they were able to do against Canfield, an overtime loss to the Cardinals. So they're very comparable to Canfield. And Boardman's going to have to play probably their best game of the year if they want to beat the Crimson Tornadoes.
Yeah, and for this right now, you look at it, the minimum average and the maximum average points, there's definitely room for Boardman to sneak up these computer rankings and stay alive in the playoffs, but they're going to need wins, and they're going to need at the very least, I would say 1 in the next 3.
Right, and maybe it's because we don't watch Dover as much. Maybe I'm naive in saying this, but I still think tonight's your best chance for a win because it gets even more tough next week with Canfield, who's already beaten Dover. And then you have a Fitch team that is just lighting the world on fire this year too. So I feel like even though Dover is a tough task, like this is the best chance for a win out of the last 3 games in your schedule.
Dover, coincidentally, is like the reverse of Pie Valley. They started off the season 4-0. They've now lost 3 consecutive weeks in a row. So for the Crimson Tornadoes, do they continue that downward spiral too? Is the storm ending? Or is it going to pick up steam again against the Spartans? We're going to have to see tonight.
Yeah, downward spiral. I see what you did there.
I got you.
But talking about Boardman real quick, I think one thing that could give Dover a lot of problems, and it's given a lot of teams a lot of problems, Boardman's defense is really, really, really good. And if you're coming into this game struggling and you have to go up against a really good defense, things start to go wrong in the first quarter. Dover starts to get in the back of their head that, here we go again. We're going to lose again. And then they start to get tight, start to try to force stuff. That could be a recipe for success for Boardman. If they can get off to a good start, maybe score first or get a stop out of the first drive and make Dover feel like things are going wrong again and that pressure starts to mount. That might be Boardman's avenue to a win.
The biggest thing in the losses we've seen outside of the Warren Harding loss, the other 2 that came for Boardman against Cheney and Maslin Jackson was just because sheer offensively at one point these teams took off. And if you're able to punch Boardman and get them down momentum-wise offense, they've been able to keep them down. But since that point, Boardman's defense has looked good. In that last loss, even last week, it wasn't offense. They contended the whole way through. Harding just was able to get the last score and leave no time left on the clock for the Spartans. For this week, this is what we're gonna have to see. Is what do we see from DJ Dota's Spartans team this year or this week for defense?
Tough loss. They had a 21-13 lead in the fourth quarter, and not only did they let Warren Harding tie it, but then they let them get the ball back and then go down and kick the game-winning field goal as time expires. So that's going to be one that Boardman thinks they let slip away. But I want to give a caveat because that Cheney game was high scoring. Cheney did get points, but remember, this was a game that was 20-7 at halftime. Boardman came out and scored to make it 21-14, and they were right there. I think it was actually 20-14, so they were right there. And then the kickoff return for a touchdown, which is not on the defense, kind of gave Cheney all the momentum they needed to end that game.
And it was kind of like confidence issues that you saw with that too. I think after that,
Boardman has to stay away from those non-offensive touchdowns too. No special teams mistakes, no pick sixes, no scoop and scores. You can't afford to give Dover a touchdown when their offense is not on the floor on the field.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, like I said, early season, maybe you saw a little bit of confidence issues at points too, where you get behind the sticks a little bit, you get behind a couple scores, and you start mentally putting yourself away. Certainly not recently. Boardman has changed their mindset if that was the case after those 2 losses, and they've come in more focused. They've stayed focused through 4 quarters, and they've executed on all fronts too, special teams included.
Next on the docket, by the way, that's a 7:00 kickoff with Boardman, Donnie Riccatelli on the call. So next on the docket, East Palestine will travel to Columbiana. This is a traveling trophy game. A lot on the line, big rivalry between these two. And I think they're fairly comparable. Columbiana is still looking for their first win of the season and Coach Spade's 200th. And East Palestine has looked competitive at most of the games they've played this season. So I think it's going to be a very good football game. Throw the records out.
I think it's going to be a good football game as well. But I'm more curious in is how many years has it been since East Palestine has won 2 games in a season too? Because that could be also something. I think 2018, right? They were 5-5, I think.
Yeah. Yes, with Parker Sherry.
So
I wanted it did they beat Columbiana in that year? I would like to see
that's a good question.
East Palestine beat Columbiana too.
They lost to Columbiana that year.
Right, so when was the last time the EP beat Columbiana? That would be something.
2017 they were solid. 2017 they did when they were 8-3.
Okay. So 2017. So they haven't beaten Columbiana in 5 years. So they can snap that. They can snap that tonight.
200th win. It's been 4 years since East Palestine's had a multiple win season. It's been 5 years since they've beaten Columbiana. This is, big game. Like you said, throw the records out the window. This is going to be a fun one to tune in.
Surprisingly enough, this was one of the hard ones to pick for me. I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't know where to go with this.
It is very tough.
Both teams have looked competitive against some teams this year. Columbiana had that 1-point loss to McDonald, and we saw what McDonald, the potential of McDonald against Springfield when they went up 21-0 on the Tigers. So that game kind of popped in the back of my head for Columbiana. If that Columbiana shows up, then they can play pretty well. And then of course the East Palestine game against Malvern is in the back of your head, and the East Palestine game against Campbell and the East Palestine win against Latonia. Those were okay. So it was hard for me to kind of decide who I wanted to pick in this game. You can find out who all of us picked on YSN on the Power Hour today from 3 to 4. The Power Hour super so.
Oh, he's still going.
It's a big echo in here. It's the blue room. It's a big echo. I'm such a dork. Guys, I'm not I'm just a guy pretending to be a show host. East Palestine at Columbiana, 7 o'clock is your kickoff. Joe CBO and Eric Hopp will have the call for you there. Garfield travels to Crestview. This is going to be a good one, and I think it's a sneaky rivalry that has been developing in the MVAC for the last 2 years across the board in sports. But in football, they both kind of play the same style. They're both that traditionally good, program, and they're both the same color scheme. So it's going to be the red and black, not the red, the black and gold, black and gold. I don't know why red.
I don't know why you went red either, but no,
I always go red. Let's go. No, the black and gold and the black and gold, play each other tonight, and this one's in Crestview. And despite the last couple of weeks where Crestview has looked a little shaky, they figured ways to win last week against LeBray, even though they were only up by 1 halftime in a game that a lot of people came into that thinking that Crestview should dominate. I think Crestview kind of has all the tools to beat Garfield and to be competitive against Garfield, but the G-Men have definitely looked like the more consistent team this season. That's for sure.
Biggest thing, and what you got to worry about if you're Garfield, and they're a good program and they've been good, they've been winning programs, but like you said, they're kids. You got Brookfield. Garfield has Brookfield at home next week. And that very well could be MVAC Gray Division Championship right there between the Warriors and the G-Men. If things go right in this one, it is what your mindset's thinking right now, because that's the only other team. You got Liberty at home in week 10, but week 9, Brookfield, that's a big game. Trap game, definitely. I mean, and you look at the records too, it definitely feels like it's a trap game, but Crestview's that program, man, that can beat anybody on their schedule any given day. They're well coached, and they got a solid football team down there. This is going to be a lot better than I think people are expecting, especially since it's going to be in Crestview. It's going to be a tough one for Garfield to try to pull out to get themselves in position to win this conference title.
Yeah, and I think with Keegan Sell running the way he has, it's going to be a matchup between two really good running backs. Like, you got Batura on one side, you got Sell on the other. Who's going to have the bigger game?
Dudes be putting in work too. Like, there's volleyball games going on in Garfield, and the gym is like right behind you, like the weights and everything. So they're putting in work and everything.
Oh, were you doing your broadcast with last night with Tink?
Oh yeah, there's definitely people that are. Yeah, they put in work. They put in the work too, Garfield.
And every now and then they peek in on the volleyball game, give a cheer, and then get back to bench lifting like 500 pounds.
Put in that work, got to put in that work.
I had a chance to talk with Eric Geddes. I don't know if you caught the interview earlier this week. We had it on
a little
Wednesday,
bit.
I think Wednesday's episode of Running. No, we actually played it on Tuesday's episode of Running Point. But he's the quarterback of this team, and I think a lot of people outside of Garfield, like a lot of programs, thought, okay, you lost Brody Swagonski and Anthony Demo, but Swagonski was the quarterback, the leader of this team, getting them in the proper position. What are you going to do? And Eric Geddes has kind of just stepped in the limelight. He's taken his senior year very seriously as a quarterback, and he's done a really good job doing stuff that goes way beyond the stats. Because, yes, he's putting in numbers. I'm not trying to say that he's not putting up stats. He's got, I think, 6 combined touchdowns through the air and on the ground. He's got like 200 plus passing yards and then 400 plus rushing yards. So he's definitely putting in the numbers. But his ability to get everyone in the right position, make the right reads, because that's a read option kind of offense where he has to make split second reads on defensive ends and things like that. So he's making the right decision more often than not, and it's really impressive to see him do it in his first year as varsity quarterback at Garfield, run that offense to perfection. So wanted to give a shout out to him, and once again thank him for his time that he was able to give me earlier in the week. Well, I guess you could say earlier in the season, 2 days ago.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, I look at this too, and South Range obviously favorites for this region, but for some YSN teams, I'm looking Edison, I'm looking Garfield, 2 top 8 teams, man, that, I mean, I think they can make solid runs themselves. Edison, if their defense plays like it has all season, I don't know if anyone can really score.
No, especially when you look at it, like the most wins that someone has left in their schedule is 2.
Yeah.
So
and Garfield's only losses to a potential Division 7 championship favorite this year in Warren JFK by 2 points.
They're number 1 in the state right now, the Eagles. So that, take that for what it's worth in the AP poll. We move on from Garfield and Crestview to I was wrong. I knew I'd be wrong when I guessed. You should never guess in the top of the show. I'm telling you right now. Just take that lesson.
Hard, isn't it?
If you're hosting a show, never guess. Hubbard at Gerard, not Niles.
They play Niles next week, though. I did
point to the universe. Score 0 for Anthony, and that's how that works. Hubbard at Gerard, Jamie Thompson and David Williams will have the call for this one. Gerard, like a lot of teams, they've been hit with the injury bug with really important players being out for the rest of the season. We definitely give our thoughts to them and hope for a speedy recovery for everyone in Gerard that's dealing with it. Hubbard coming in hot. They have the win over Lakeview, 22-0. Their defense has been playing excellent all season, and when you're trying to figure stuff out in Gerard's offense, life without some of these players, and you're doing it against a really good defense, like this is going to be tough, I think, for Gerard to pull off.
Not having Bengala is gonna hurt, and what Gerard's gonna, I feel like, need to do to get a win is beat Hubbard at their own game, because you still got Michael Palmer. I presume he's still healthy. You still got Palmer.
Yeah.
So you have a running game at least. Hubbard, not a big passing team. They're going to run the ball 95% of the time primarily anyway. So it's going to be a low scoring game, since, Bengala might not give you that extra layer on the offense, but Gerard's going to have to go and play almost a run heavy style of offense, I feel, and just go pound for pound with Hubbard and be the last team to score. And it's going to be one of those old school games, I feel like, is what it's going to turn to, because Girard's going to have to evolve, I feel like, to win this game. And Hubbard's just going to keep on keeping on with what they've been doing.
And I think, despite losing the production that Begala brings to the field, I think another thing they lose is just his calming presence, man, his leadership, because they had Poland on the ropes last week, 17-7. They were leading with just over 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and it just kind of slipped right through their fingers. It just, and I think the more it kind of mounted, the more Poland gained momentum. There wasn't that guy that was like keeping everybody calm and keeping everybody kind of focused, and that's going to be tough. If this game is close, I think real advantage to Hubbard. I really do.
That's where Hubbard's made their money, I guess, this season, if you would, because they've gotten wins with those low scoring affairs where they can control possession, control the time most of the time, and end up being the team that just has a few more points than you at the end of the timer. And I mean, it's really just defensively sound football is what Hubbard plays, though, and
we just got a group chat from Richie. The Guardians must have done something good. He's excited. Caveat: Ty probably has the Guardians game on like slightly off screen to his left. He's probably like keeping a side eye on that. So if you ever see him go like this,
if it's something big, it was 0-0. So I mean, pitcher's duel right now for sure.
So I know a lot of Guardians fans. Maybe we're losing viewers to the Guardians. I don't hold anything against you. It's a big moment for Cleveland baseball. But if you are choosing to watch us and listen to us and maybe have us next to the Guardians game, I've never made that slip before, but I just did. If you have us up next to the Guardians,
Girard, though, too. We were just talking about Girard.
I know.
So I mean, it's very easy to make
tough. Let's go to the next game. Indian Creek. We'll try to figure out this puzzle that is Beaver Local, because man, have they been on some kind of tear? 3 games with 60 or more points after going 0-2 on the season.
Beaver Local is a top 4 team right now in the rankings in Region 13.
After week 2, and if I told you that the Beaver Local would make it into the top 4, what would you say?
I mean, I tell you, you're crazy, but here's the craziest thing of all, though, and if every single team wins out in Division 4 Region 13, including Beaver Local, if Beaver Local wins out and every other team around them wins out, Beaver Local would be a 2 seed.
Wow.
Like that, according to the max average points, if they win out, that they can get is the 2 seed. Now that
also it means max, which means the teams that they beat would also have to win out the rest of the season, right?
Which it is possible because there are good teams in John Hay 6-1,
So
Wheeling Central Catholic 5-0.
If they beat Indian Creek tonight, Indian Creek would have to go and win those next 2 games for that to be the max.
Yeah, but the minimum average that they have too is 18, and that would put them right around 4 or 5 too. But honestly, I don't think
minimum just means if they lost the rest of their games, right?
Yeah, basically. Well, minimum if they were to win out. So that would mean if they would win out and everyone else lost on their schedule too.
Oh, okay.
Because you got to remember the other games that they've played are affecting them too as well. But Beaver Local can get all the way up to a 2 seed, but they're realistically living in the 4. But winning out can get them into the 2 seed, and I feel like it can with the teams that they play. Indian Creek's going to be the toughest one to ask for wins out of the last 3 weeks, but Cleveland John Hay and Wheeling Central Catholic, 2 solid football programs.
I wonder if Girard can hang on to that 1 spot.
That would be
It's amazing that they built themselves such a lead that they were able to lose 2 in a row and still stay at number 1.
They need to get some wins, and they need to get them quickly. West Branch hot on their tail for sure.
And they're playing Alliance, who I believe is a division above in Division 3, I think Alliance is, right?
Yes, I believe so.
That'd be a big win for West Branch as they're going up a division to play Alliance. Indian Creek and Beaver Local. Mike McKenzie will have the call, 7 o'clock kickoff there. The Spaghetti Bowl, we were live from prime time last night at Lisbon. Talked to a bunch of people there at Lisbon. Rick Daly will be on the call at 7 o'clock. This is the one we're talking about, Coach Aldermore. A little bit awkward. teaching one place, coaching another. You never know what's going to happen, but this is a big rivalry game for both teams, and Lisbon has a chance to add another win to their schedule, and they've had a really impressive season so far.
It would be win number 5 too, and win number 5 I feel like is important for a lot of football programs. No matter when you get it, it means that you're not going to have a losing football season in the regular season, and I think that's a huge win, and that's an opportunity for Lisbon. And I mean, they have a united team in Week 9, but favorable matchup with Columbiana, so there's a chance that you could see a 6-4 Lisbon team this year, and Lisbon obviously being in Division 7 is number 11 in the playoffs right now.
6-4 should be good enough to make the playoffs.
You would think 6-4. So I mean, you got to beat the teams that you're quote unquote supposed to beat, right? These teams that you're favored against, you got to win these 2 games out of the next 3 weeks. But I think there's definitely a path to the playoffs for the Blue Devils.
Louisville goes to McDonald at 7:00 kickoff. Noah Doty will have the call there. McDonald had a good start against Springfield, and then they couldn't sustain that. So I think that was a glimpse of what McDonald can be and the potential that Coach Williams has put out on the field. So I'm not going to sit here and say McDonald is like lost in the water and in the complete struggle bus, and there's no way they can compete with Louisville, because I think they've proven with that start against Springfield that they do have the guys that can go out and probably compete with Louisville. Can they do it consistently? Can they find the confidence to keep it up for 4 quarters? I don't know, but I don't think this is going to be the type of game where, everyone just is sitting there like, okay, we're out of here first quarter, sit everybody, and let's just go to the next one. I think McDonald kind of proved, especially in Springfield, that they have a little bit more toughness than that.
I think McDonald's also looking at the fact that they're 24 seed in Region 25, and if they can get a win against Louisville, it could propel them almost to the playoffs immediately with that win. Right. So, I mean, you look at big weeks too. Like you can look at the last 7 weeks and say, all right, guys, we're 2-5, but we could forget about all of that if we can pull off the upset right here too, because we can immediately propel ourselves into position to where we can get into the playoffs.
How about that? They're 2-5. They're sitting in 24. They're looking around. There are some 3-4 teams that are sitting pretty in the playoffs. They're like, what the heck is going on here?
You got, but I mean, that's the big thing.
I know, but it's funny to see that. This if everything was even, it's like we're 2-5, and I'm sitting over here like this team's 3-4 in another division, and they're sitting at the 12 spot. We're 2-5 and 7, and we're sitting at 24. What?
Yeah. I mean, it's all about, I guess, the script that's written going into the week for the football teams, right? And sometimes the movie or the Disney movie isn't framed on you that week too. And that's that's where you see these 7-0 teams and these undefeated teams, or these teams having great seasons where, you worry about those slip up games, because sometimes a game just means more to a team, and you don't think about those little things and why it might mean more and why they might be coming out with a little extra pep in their step.
Louisville is like the perfect villain in that Disney movie right now.
the 7-0 undefeated.
Oh, yeah, this is the end of the story. McDonald, they've been struggling all year, and it's been building to this, and no one gives them a chance. And in the Disney movie ending, they go out there and they beat the bad guys. Obviously, sports isn't as nice and scripted as a Disney movie, but hey, we'll see what McDonald can do with their game tonight.
Yeah.
Let's do one more. We'll take a break because South Range is traveling to Jefferson tonight, 7:00 kickoff. And before last week, this was a really intriguing game. Unfortunately for Jefferson, they got punched in the mouth a little bit last week against Struthers. So they fall, and now they're 2 games behind the Raiders in the NE8. So they would need to win, and they would need to hope that South Range loses to somebody else too. But Jefferson, this could be still a statement win in their last year of the NE8. Coach Hanna has said it multiple times on our show that he wants to make sure that when they leave the NE8 next year, that people remember who Jefferson was. They want to kind of leave their mark on the conference. And man, if you're the first team to take down South Range in the league conference since 2019, that'd be a pretty good statement, I think.
And I mean, they've beaten Hubbard too on the season. So this is a good Jefferson Falcon team. Nothing taken away from them. I think one thing that Struthers game, and I think Struthers has kind of been a teacher for a lot of teams this year and has taught them taught teams a lot about themselves going forward. I think South Range experienced that against the Wildcats earlier in the season. And I think this is going to be a case where, if anything, Jefferson needs to learn you can't fall behind the 8 ball that quickly and let it keep rolling. Can't let that snowball effect happen, because before they knew it, in a blink of an eye, Struthers was putting up points. I'm curious to see, considering that, of course, South Range is going to be a favorite in this one, even though it's home for Jefferson. If Jefferson takes those shots down the field early on, how many of those shots they take, trying to just really stretch this Raiders defense, because I think where South Range really beats you up defensively is keeping it within 15 yards, right? Like everything inside of 15 yards, secondary, inside, linebacking core, defense.
Keep you in front of them, and then they're great at open field tackling. They're not going to let you break tackles and run, yards down the field.
So it's really hard to kind of nickel and dime South Range, because you got to try to get those scores on big scores if you can too. But it's easier said than done. But I'm curious to see how many big shots we see from the Falcons, because they have the speed, they have the quarterback to do it. That might be the path that they have to take to try to knock off this Raiders team.
Something that I think Jefferson is probably seeing on film a little bit is an opportunity to maybe get some big plays in special teams. The Raiders have given up a couple of long returns this year. They gave up one in the Niles game after they went down and scored the first touchdown of the game. Niles returned it all the way back to the Raiders 30. Now that Niles offense couldn't do anything with it after that, but you get some big plays in the special teams like that. Gerard's offense is a different animal than Niles, that's for sure. So if you give Jefferson, did I say Gerard? Jefferson's offense,
you're good.
Jefferson's offense is a different animal than Niles, and if you give them the ball at the 30, they probably will take advantage of it. So I think Jefferson wants to just find little ways, like special teams, like the big plays you were talking about, to sneak in some big plays against South Range, and hopefully that can keep them in contention. I really hope Jefferson comes out and fights in this game. I don't want to see this program, lull from their loss last week, because I know it was a tough loss. I know Struthers beat them up. I don't want to see Jefferson turn into the Jefferson last year and kind of pack.
It's kind of like reverse, where South Range had like their worst offensive game against Struthers. I think Jefferson had their worst defensive game.
And their worst offensive game. Let's just be real. This is their worst game all around, because they couldn't score much either.
Yeah, so honestly, you look at Jefferson's defense before that, they bring that defensive intensity against South Range, and they're, like you said, able to sneak in some big plays. There's very good possibility they can contend with the Raiders. I mean, the defense has shown it's played with some of the best in the NE8 to this point. I know Raiders are a different animal, but if you're looking at the Falcons through their lens, I mean, you got to figure however you can, right? This is a huge win, and if you want to talk about getting yourself up the rankings, even though this is a division down for the Falcons, 7-0, those 7 wins the Raiders have are going to be huge going forward for Jefferson if they get the win.
And dang, every time South Range plays a team that people think can give them a fight, you just put their foot down. Like, no,
yeah,
you think this team's good? Let me show you. Tee out. Let me show you. So it's going to be interesting to see how this game goes. I think it could go the way that people expect. It could, be another South Range ho-hum, big win. But I wouldn't be shocked if Jefferson competed and had a chance late in the game.
They got speed, man. That's one thing that Jefferson has a ton of in offense is speed, and speed can kill sometimes if you're not careful with it. And if Jefferson can utilize it wisely, they might be able to get some scores on the Raiders tonight.
That's what speed do. We're going to take our second break of the day and pay some more bills. When we come back, we'll have even more previews to talk about from the football slate on Friday. So we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Running Point brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
Before the lights come on, before the workday begins, before a long day is ended, or it's time to have fun, it all starts with the people at Joe Dickey Electric. From replacing a light fixture in your home to building a substation for your business, no job is too big or too small. The people of Joe Dickey Electric power them all. Joe Dickey Electric, over 60 years of powering the Mahoning Valley.
Why choose local? Because you live here, work here, learn here, relax here, and celebrate here. 21 WFMJ is our Valley's only locally owned TV station, and our focus is local. Other TV stations don't have that same focus, as their owners are somewhere else. But 21 WFMJ is rooted in the Valley. Local people making decisions that affect your life, right here where you live.
You're looking to your future, preparing for your goals, and they're closer than you think. Because here, success is part of the plan. It's a place where academic and social opportunities are meant to prepare you for life, not just the next 4 years. You'll be equipped to face new challenges and turn hard work into a career. You're ready for your success to take root. And here's where it starts. We are Youngstown State University, and proud.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions.
WRS Insurance Solutions is a local independent agency that specializes in life, Medicare, long-term care, and disability products. Call us at 330-953-3722 or visit us at wrsinsuranceSolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
At Greenwood Chevrolet, we offer a worry-free experience for all our customers.
From sales to financing and even service, we'll help build your perfect vehicle
and lock in your trade value
while your vehicle is being built.
No worries.
We guarantee financing,
regardless of your situation or credit history. No worries. And when your vehicle needs service,
our award-winning team will get you back on the road.
No worries.
That's what going the extra mile means. Only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Change. This one word can make you break out in a cold sweat. But with change comes wisdom, experience, and understanding. At Myers Family Insurance, we can help make changes in Medicare, insurance, and retirement a positive experience for you and your family. We've gone through changes, like our new office and new faces to help our family of clients too.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance. Check us out online at MyersFamilyINS.com or find us on Facebook.
You're not waiting to see what the world has in store for you. It's more about what you have in store for the world. All you need is the opportunity. All you need are the resources of a large university and the advantages of a personalized academic setting where you can experience new worlds in the arts and sciences, business, and education and make them your own. We are where you shape your future. We are Youngstown State University, and proud.
Hi, I'm Colin Chupa. And I'm Kelsey Clem from K-Squared Marketing. Our boutique marketing firm specializes in media planning and buying, public relations, event marketing strategies, and strategic sponsorships. We can integrate our services with your existing game plan, or we can be your entire marketing team. Your goals, our game plan. Let's win together. Call K-Squared Marketing at 330-623-2730 or visit ksquared.marketing to learn more.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you as always by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Hartwig alongside Ty Bartell as we continue our Football Friday preview. And we start right off the bat as we ended with South Range going to Jefferson at 7 o'clock. It'll be Pat Santar on the call there. We go from there to Springfield going to Western Reserve. It'll be Aaron Moser on the call. 7 o'clock is your kickoff. And this is a game that has been a battle spot for playoffs. They met each other in the first round of the playoffs, I think, the last 2 years. So last 2 years, they've played each other twice in a season. It's always been Springfield. This year, maybe a little bit more of a competitive game. Maybe Western Reserve's chance to get revenge on the Tigers.
Hosting Springfield as well, it'll be interesting to see how Western Reserve's going to be able to try to defend home field, as the Tigers still looking to keep climbing those playoff rankings, the computer rankings, and come away with a big win, as they need as many as they can get. Being down in Division 7 does help Springfield this year, as right now, currently, they are sitting at number 9. They're trying to get into the top 8. The margin is very slim, like a tenth of a point between them and Toronto. So they can need these wins to get themselves to host a playoff game, that first one at least. And they need as many as they can get. It can start tonight for Springfield if they can go 4-4.
Yeah, and we talked about it. We know that Toronto is a team that has suffered a couple of key injuries. They've lost, I think, 3 in a row now. They're definitely a scuffling team, and when that's the team ahead of you, and you're on a little bit of a wing streak for the Tigers, they have to be thinking that the horizon looks pretty bright. But don't get too sneaky, because Western Reserve, despite their record, is a very talented team. They've lost a handful of heartbreakers at the end to really good teams. So Western Reserve has had enough heartbreak to last 3 seasons. They've been extremely competitive this year. They have good players. Luke Henning had a great game for the Devils last week. And when you look at it, it's just a team that has a lot of talent. They just haven't been able to come out on top results wise. So don't sleep on the Western Reserve Blue Devils. That's for sure.
What Western Reserve's also 17 in the same region as Springfield, so they're just on the outside looking in, and the margin is about a tenth of a point similar between them and Wellsville, which is sitting at 16. So Western Reserve looking to get in the playoffs, Springfield looking to host.
Right, I like that. Two teams on opposite spectrums, because Springfield pretty comfortably in the playoffs at this point, but they want to host, of course. And Western Reserve just trying to get in, right? Get us to the table. Let us get a spot. So,
and funny enough, if Western Reserve gets to 16, they would have to play John F. Kennedy, which would be I mean, you talk about ringing the bell, but that obviously there's still space though. And looking at what Western Reserve can do points wise, they could still climb these rankings. So if not 16 isn't the ceiling for Western Reserve if they get just a win this week.
Yeah, this would be a big one for them though going forward. I think it would exercise a lot of demons that the Devils, get it, demons, devils.
Yeah, make you feel good.
Have gotten against the Tigers over the years. So we will see if Western Reserve can get the Springfield Tiger-sized monkey off their back and get a win tonight. Aaron Mosier will have the call for you. What we call AMO, putting in the work. 7 o'clock is your kickoff. We go next to Struthers. They will go to Niles at 7 o'clock kickoff. Ian O'Brien will have the call. He's been the voice of Niles all season. And 2 teams on opposite ends of the spectrum for the season, because Niles started hot, started really good. They have kind of been on a downtrend, some injuries in their program, of course. Struthers, they started a little bit rough. They had a couple of tough losses in a row, but now after that win against Jefferson last week, they are looking really, really good. So it's one team progressing up, the other team progressing down. Obviously, on paper, you would think no brainer, but in the NE8, it can get real crazy real quick.
And I mean, right now, Struthers being 3-4, they're number 14, so they got themselves into a playoff position right now. And Niles being 19, they're looking to get into the playoffs. Struthers, though, they have a favorable schedule, I think. Even Girard being 5-2, I think without Bengala, I think it becomes a team or a more, I guess, 50-50 game, I would say, in that home matchup with Girard. So this becomes a big matchup for Struthers. It would set them to 4-4 on the season and really just help them in their quest to get in that top 16 in their region.
Yeah, and when you look at it, sorry, I hit the wrong button. Oh, come on. There we go. When you look at it, it's gonna be interesting, because like kind of Springfield versus Western Reserve, Niles is a team that has been backed into a corner of desperation, right? Those teams can be dangerous when they're desperate and they need a win bad. Those can be the dangerous teams to play at this point in the season, because really at this point, what does Niles have to lose, right? So they can be uber aggressive and do whatever it takes to try to get this win. You could see some really creative, wild stuff come out of the Dragons offense tonight.
Very well could. It's a big game for both teams, and feel good story for the Wildcats, though, if they could keep getting wins and make it into the playoff after the way they started with a 1-4 start.
Absolutely, especially like the way they've lost a couple of games, overtime to Hubbard, overtime to Streetsboro, played South Range, the toughest anyone's played them this year, couldn't pull off the 10-point loss to there. So with the stuff that Struthers has gone through, I know we talked about Western Reserve having a lot of heartbreak in their season. Struthers is over in the corner saying, hey, we have too. Don't forget about us. We've had a couple of games that just haven't gone our way. So Struthers is a team that is looking for some positivity. Get it? Because
That was a stretch. That was a little bit of a.
I'm playing with Play-Doh. I didn't even mean for that to be a pun. I just, as soon as I said positivity, I was like, "Ha, pa." Oh, jeez. Welcome to Friday. TGIF. Let's just move on. 7:00 kickoff there from Struthers and Niles. Brian. We'll have the call. 7:00 kickoff for this one. Richie Giuliano and Steve Leslie taking it as a tandem team. Ursuline at Villa Angela St. Joe's. This one is going to be played at. Oh, geez. It's usually at Case Western, but not this time. Oh, no. Oh, no. It was in my head.
I mean, I hope you find it in your head because it ain't in mine. Right?
It's gone. It's gone. The location of this game. It was there and it's gone. Dang.
It's still one of the.
Anyway, it's going to be a huge game. Villa Angela St. John's. We all know how good they are. We all know how good Ursuline has been this year. It's a big matchup. Ursuline trying to bounce back from another tough loss last week. And man, last week they were right there. They were probably, you could argue, just as good, if not better, than St. Vincent St. Mary. But they had a couple of unforced mistakes that let St. V's win that game. They got to stay away from those kind of things if they want to beat a team like VASJ.
And they're 13. VASJ is in the same region as Ursuline, who's 4. So it's 4 versus 13 in the same region. And I mean, they're looking to climb, and a win against Ursuline would definitely help their climb into these playoffs and get themselves a better position. So big game all the way around. You're hosting the Irish, and a huge game for VASJ.
Yeah, big game playoff implications. No one is trying to fight into a playoff spot. I think both these teams are pretty much locked into the playoffs, but seeding is a thing that both these teams are trying to jockey for.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And I mean, you look at where VASJ is standing too. They got some sizable points.
Baldwin Wallace is where this game is going to be played.
There you go.
Thank you, Richie. He saved me. I had it. I knew it, but it wasn't in my head at the right time.
I was not informed of where it was going to be played, so I did not have it. So I was hoping you did.
Richie saves the day. VASJ traditionally plays the Case Western Reserve, but not this season.
Yeah, but going to be a good game either way.
So Baldwin Wallace will be the site, and YSN will be there. Richie Giuliano and Steve Leslie making the trip. Anthony Romo, if you're wondering where he's at, he's got to be at YSU Volleyball as he does work for them. Still in school, still a YSU student. So we wish him the best of luck calling the Penguins volleyball game tonight as the Penguins in their homestand, I think, this weekend. Now we go into the next game as Valley Christian will go to Southern. This is the one that everyone's talking about. First place of EOAC on the line. It's going to be the best game of the night. Yeah, I think it's going to be the best game of the night, hands down. Two opposite kind of styles, with Southern being your traditional option offense, with the physicality and run style. Valley Christian leans a little bit more on their athleticism. They spread people out. But I have said before, Ty, and we've been kind of previewing this matchup, it feels like, for a couple of weeks because both teams had a couple of games in a row where we kind of understood that they were going to win the games. We couldn't exactly come out and say that, like, oh, they're just, lock it in. But we kind of understood that this game was going to end up being the EOAC first place game. And I think Valley Christian, despite the fact that they do like to play the spread offense and they do like to play, the athletic, get to the perimeter game. If you want them to, they have the strength and the size to play physically. If you force them to, I would not say that Valley Christian is a team that can't play physical and can't push around Southern local. So I think Southern is going to try to set the tone and try to be physical. But then when Vashon Gurley gets the ball, I think they're going to forget about wanting to be physical because this kid's like 6'5", 260. And so if Vashon Gurley gets the ball in his hands and they start being physical with him, might be second guessing that option for Southern. But Southern also has Wyatt Morris, who is just as good of a physical runner. I'm going to be surprised. I think if Valley Christian comes out and sets the tone early and turns it into a high-scoring game, I think that could be a problem for Southern. And I think if Southern can set the tone and make it a physical game and make it one that, both teams have to drive the length of the field, win the field position game. I think that's what Southern will have a chance to win. But like I said, I don't think Valley Christian is going to be a team that kind of struggles if you make them play the slower type of offense that is physical.
And this is number 6 in Region 21 taking on number 5 in Region 25. So, I mean, two really good teams, two teams that are projected to host at least the first round playoff matchups. And it's going to be, I think, a really good game, too, on top of the fact that it's for the EOAC championship. You're playing for respect, and we're playing for a sole crown for the EOAC teams right now.
So,
and for Valley Christian, they can walk away with that championship pretty much in hand.
Right.
Southern needs to win it to at least open up the doors, which then United now can all of a sudden sit at the table, and it becomes a wild fiasco.
Winner takes first place. So this is how it kind of goes. Southern will have United week 10, I think. So if Southern wins, they'll still have to play United, who has only one loss in the season so far, to Valley Christian. So if Southern wins, then that game in week 10 is where you could see a lot of chaos, because obviously if Southern wins tonight and then United wins in week 10, then you get a three-way tie for the EOAC.
And it's always
not so. If Valley Christian wins, they're in the driver's seat. They would be undefeated. Southern would have a loss. United would have a loss. They would have already beaten those two teams. Obviously, there's still games to play. You still have to go take care of business against the last two teams in the slate. But these are the last real big test on paper for Valley Christian. So you can't call it an EOAC championship if they win. They still have to go take care of business. But at the same time, it's like the de facto championship game.
And I mean, you look at this game too. This is going to be really interesting to see as far as EOAC standings are concerned, because like we said, Valley Christian could walk away pretty much championship in hand. But if Southern wins this one, it opens up that possibility for a three-way tie, and it just makes you think of that Harry Potter meme where it's like, why is it always you three that I always see, and then we should just have Southern, Valley, and United. Like, why is it always you three?
Why is it always you three?
It's always these three that continue.
We had to fit a pop culture reference into the show.
Absolutely.
These ones.
Absolutely. But
here's something that I think is interesting. Valley Christian has played a big caliber game already this season with a lot of stakes with that United game. This is Southern's first taste of that. So I'm interested to see if that plays any kind of role, if that plays any kind of weight in the game where Southern has, they've played good teams. I'm not saying that Southern hasn't played like big games, but with this kind of weight on it, Southern hasn't played yet. Like when that Valley Christian United game happened, it was for first place. Both teams were undefeated. It was a hyped up game. So it was one of those ones where you thought, okay, winner of this is in the driver's seat for the OAC. So they've already had that experience, and they come out and they showed up, right? They beat up United. So it's going to be interesting to see how Southern shows up in their first game that has a lot of weight in the EOAC standings.
I'm just curious to see, because I mean, they did prove they could play in a close one against Crestview in week 2. That 12-7 winner did kind of prove that Southern can play those close games, those defensive games. But now this is a game that has a lot more meaning.
So in that game, if they lose it, like, okay, we lost a non-conference game, it stinks. But so what? Now it's like we lose this, we lose the conference.
Absolutely. And I mean, it really doesn't, there's really not a chance unless Valley slips up. There's no way you can control your own destiny going forward. But for Southern right now, yeah, you win here, you have a chance at a top spot in the UAC.
Gonna be interesting, that's for sure. Wellsville is our next on the slate. They travel to United. Chris Sigler will have the call. United now has a new record holder in career receptions as Grant Knight broke that record last week. Against East Palestine, and in the Eagles' big win over the Bulldogs, a win where, they did not have a good first half of football. They were only up 14-6 at halftime against East Palestine, and East Palestine actually took a lead. It was 6-0 before United scored a couple of times before halftime. Third quarter, they scored 21 points, and they put that one to bed. But I think Coach Ogilvie is probably looking at that tape saying, guys, these slow starts, they can't happen. Wellsville's a little bit better. If we slow start against them, they could be up, 14-0 at halftime instead of us being up playing sloppy. 14-6. So That's the one thing you say in this matchup. Obviously on paper, United looks like they're the clear favorites. But if you had to look at something, you look at United's slow start last week, and you say, okay, well, if they do that, then that's Wellsville's open door. That's their little creak in the armor. If United is somehow able to have a slow start again, I don't see it happening back-to-back weeks having a slow start. This offense is too good for that. But Wellsville is going to try as they might to slow down the United offense.
Should be a fun one though inside the UAC, as United needs those wins too if they want a chance at the crown.
Right. I mean, Wellsville can play spoiler, because if Southern wins, Wellsville wins, and all of a sudden Southern's like, we are in the driver's seat now.
Yeah, I mean, if United ends up slipping up to anyone else, then this definitely this game between Valley and Southern could mean championship. Definitely, all the
If
marbles.
Southern was next week, I would say trap game.
Yeah,
but obviously it's not.
Yeah, definitely not. No, they're end of the season too. Not really too much worry about trap.
And this is one tie next. By the way, Chris Sigler on the call for that 7:00 kickoff. This next game, I think, is one that people aren't talking about as much. And that always happens with the EBC, because a lot of teams in that conference are outside of the local coverage map. But West Branch and Alliance, this is going to be an absolutely awesome football game between two high-flying offenses. West Branch needs it because they want that EBC championship, and they still have Salem still on their schedule. They still have Carrollton on their schedule too. So West Branch, the last 3 weeks of the season, Alliance, Carrollton, and Salem. So a big stretch for the Warriors, and they can start off by setting the tone tonight to beating the Aviators.
This could very well be the EBC championship as well between these two teams, and two high-flying teams that have two really, really good quarterbacks as well. Both committed to the next level, I believe, already as well. Both have great receiving cores. Both can run the ball. I mean, just dynamic on all fronts, and you're just going to see a really good football game. Like, if you don't know much about EBC football, check out Warriors and Salem last year, and that's kind of what I feel like you can expect in West Branch's next.
Can they one up that?
They might be able to. I think the next 3 games are going to be really fun against Alliance, Carrollton, and Salem. I think you're going to see really, really fun football games out of West Branch, and I wouldn't be surprised if they get some extra tune-ins from other people too. And I think if you haven't tuned into West Branch football yet, you're doing yourself a disservice. You got to see Drew DeShields perform locally while you still can.
It's going to be funny because West Branch is going to have this game against a team that's very comparable to the offense they run, with that pass-heavy offense that likes to score a lot of points. But then next week they'll go into a Carrollton team that loves to run the ball, loves to be slow, physical, run the clock kind of offense. And then they'll go to Salem, which is right back to their style. So they're going to have to make mental adjustments on the fly in the next 3 weeks. But like we said before, this is West Branch's opportunity to really stake their claim to the EBC if they're able to beat Alliance on the road tonight. And if they do it in decisive fashion, it really backs up all the people that have been in West Branch's corner all season saying they deserve to be in those power rankings. I'll tell you that much.
I think that would be a big win too, and I think it definitely gives them some respect and some street cred, I guess.
Drew DeShields, he's not going to be the reason they lose. I'll tell you that much.
No, not at all. He's phenomenal. Eastern Michigan, if I'm not mistaken.
Eastern Illinois.
Eastern somewhere. I knew it was Eastern somewhere. Thanks for
back. Like it's Eastern something.
Yeah, it's in one of those states, Eastern Illinois, and then I think Toledo. I can't think of the Alliance quarterback's name off the top of my head, but I believe Toledo is where he's committed.
Toledo's doing a lot of recruiting in our area.
Toledo loves it right now, man. They're bringing them out west.
That old Glass Bowl bringing a lot of people into Youngstown.
Yeah.
Last game that is green on our schedule that is for sure going to be on the network is Poland at Lakeview. It'll be Connor Richardson on the call in Cortland. It is homecoming night for Lakeview as they host Poland. So maybe a little bit of a late start kickoff, maybe 7:15. Usually homecoming games take a little bit longer because of the homecoming ceremony beforehand. But Poland obviously coming off a win, Lakeview coming off of a loss. And like a lot of NE8 games this week, trajectories are different. Poland projecting up, Lakeview projecting down. Can someone reverse the script?
Battle of the Bulldogs, though. I mean, at the
Battle of the Blue Bulldogs, too.
Yeah. You love to see it. It'll be fun as Lakeview looks to grab another win. They're still in playoff contention, though. They're still alive at 16. They're trying to stay alive. But Poland, like you said, has been trending up, and they're continuing to climb the computer ranking ladder. So big game for both teams inside the NE8.
I think Lakeview has actually a pretty good chance in this one. Poland's offense isn't going to blow you out of the water, and Lakeview's defense has been pretty good this year outside of that game last week, but their defense has been pretty stout overall this year. So if Lakeview can kind of keep that Poland offense in check, they got to find ways to score, though, because their defense played well against Hubbard, and they just couldn't find any way to put the ball in the end zone. They lost 22-0 to the Eagles last week. So Lakeview's got to find a way to score, but their defense will keep them in this game.
And I think the biggest thing Coach Pavlansky and crew has probably been preaching to this team is that this isn't the same Lakeview team that we've seen in years past. This is a different type of animal, a different type of bulldog, a lot more fight and a lot more bark in it. It's going to be a tough-nosed football team that they're going to go in and face. And, homecoming night, juices are flowing a little bit more. The crowd is usually a little bit more beefed up, a little bit more excitable, and a little bit more loud. So Lakeview wants to give them something to cheer about, certainly.
I was in Lakeview last night, and I got a chance to talk to a couple of football players out the game after the volleyball game when they were exiting. And I just wanted to know, what Coach Bellino has done for this program. And they said the biggest thing that he's done is he's gotten numbers back up because there were players before him, going into their freshman year or sophomore year saying, I don't want to play football because I don't want to go my whole career without a win. That was the conversation that students were having inside that school. I don't want to play this sport because they're not winning. They're not winning any games. I don't want to go. I don't want to be the guy that goes my whole high school career without a win in a sport. So that's what was keeping people away from the football program. Well, all of a sudden, here's a turnaround. We are winning games. We are showing that we have fight. Numbers are going to go back up for this program. I'm telling you.
You needed a season like this to get some confidence back in the program, and just grabbing the wins that they have this season has been huge for Lakeview, no doubt. And right now it has, like I said, Lakeview right now is still alive in the playoffs. And I really think it helped them moving down that to Division 5 now. I mean, there's a little bit more room now, I think, for Lakeview too, with a few more losses to continue to stay alive. They're right sandwiched in between Champion and Crestwood right now, but either way, big opportunity for Lakeview. 3 wins on the season already. It's been a great year for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, they flip-flopped divisions with Jefferson, so still 2 NE8 teams in that Division 5. It used to be South Range and Jefferson. Now it's South Range and Lakeview, and then Jefferson went up to Division 4 where Lakeview used to be.
You got to figure, though, if Coach Bellino's been doing anything, like you said, it's been offensive drills, because 3 points the last 3 weeks offensively, that's got to change. Where Lakeview was scoring at least in the 20s, too, 20s, 30s when they were winning games, they got to get that scoring back up there.
Yeah, because no matter how good your defense is, you got to score some points to win, right? You can't win 0-0.
No doubt. So definitely offense has to be the name of the game, I think, for Lakeview.
Some other games that are going on tonight. Actually, this one just went green, so we'll talk about it. Fairport Harbor at Wyndham. Quinn just turned it green. The school will be taking care of this. The Bombers have been up and down this year. There have been times when they looked really, really good. Obviously, they're dealing with really low numbers and a couple of injuries in the beginning of the season that had them have to cancel a game. But they're back. And man, I think this offense has the potential to explode. Fairport Harbor, not super impressive. So this is a winnable game for Wyndham.
Absolutely, it's a winnable game, and I'm really excited to see what comes about it. Honestly, with Wyndham needing kind of as many wins as they can, and just for a program that has that's been dealing with some injuries too, it's always nice to see them be competitive in some games and have a chance to win. And I think it's a winnable game for the Bombers.
Look, when you go into a season with a roster size the way Wyndham has, you know it's going to be a tough season. But there are definitely a lot of potential there. And there are definitely times when you see, okay, these Wyndham kids can play. It's there. They want to shake off last week because last week was this one that they never had control of the game. It got away from early. But outside of last week, even the games they lost, pretty dang competitive.
Absolutely, and I mean they've been fun all the way around too. Where Wyndham's been competitive at points too. They're going to need to put together a full 4 quarters here tonight.
That's going to be at 7:00. Your kickoff. Once again, the Wyndham School will take care of that one. Some games that are still going on in the Ysn family that unfortunately will not be covered tonight. We have Canton Central Catholic traveling to East Liverpool, 7 o'clock kickoff there. Harrison Central at Edison, as the Wildcats look to continue their impressive defensive season and stay undefeated on the year. 7 o'clock
We
kickoff
on the
there.
power rankings this week too.
I know they made it on the power rankings. They're number 10 in the YSN rankings now. Middle Ridge will travel to Sebring at 7 o'clock. Newton Falls will be at Liberty at 7 o'clock. That's going to be a good game that Liberty has a chance to win, and they have a chance to kind of fight their way into a playoff spot. Can you believe it?
Yeah,
it's
sure.
crazy.
Lawrence Watson was the real deal last week. They're looking for him again this week.
Yeah, him and Chris Cunningham. Cunningham put up almost 200 receiving yards and a couple of touchdowns, so he'll be the favorite target, that's for sure. Orange will be at Perry. That game is going to be at 7 o'clock. Jackson Milton will travel to Waterloo at 7, and then LeBray will travel to Brookfield at 7. JFK at St. Thomas Aquinas was canceled, and Louisville at Glen Oak will not be on the network, is happening because Glen Oak and all the Federal League teams charge $500 per stream. So Glen Oak would not let us in without $500.
Yeah, you gotta love it.
That's even more encouragement for Louisville to go beat them to smithereens.
Smithereens.
Are we petty? Yeah, we're petty. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go. Ty, we have a couple of games tomorrow. The big one on the volleyball slate. Actually, no football games, but the big one on the volleyball slate tomorrow. Crestview at Girard. This is one a lot of people have been looking forward to all year. Biggest test for Crestview on the year. They take their undefeated season into Girard, and they will play at noon. I will be there on the call.
Noon will be perfect because it'll be right around the time where most of these high schoolers will be waking up the next day too. So I mean, if you're tuning into any kind of volleyball games too, and you want to learn about a little bit of some really good teams going into the tournament, this is a great way to get yourself introduced. As noon the next day after Friday Night Lights, Crestview Girard, can't really get much better than that. And you look at our power rankings over there. I mean, these are two of the top teams.
By the way, some other volleyball games happening this weekend. Mineral Ridge will be at Lowville on Saturday at 11:30. Smithville will travel to Louisville at 11 a.m. West Branch will host Boardman will host West Branch at 11:30, and then Buckeye Trail will be at Edison at 1 o'clock. I just got information on a very special game from Newton Falls. They will play on Saturday as well, and they are going to play Southeast in a Volley for a Cure game. One of the Newton Falls teachers in the school system, unfortunately, is battling breast cancer. So the 50-50 raffle will be taking place on the Volley for a Cure night. All proceeds will be going to that teacher and their family as they battle through a very tough, very tough situation. And that's something that a lot of people are going through, and that's why October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and that's why you see so many pink games on the volleyball schedules, because this is something that is a reality to a lot of people, not just that unfortunate teacher in the Newton Falls school system, but a lot of people. It's hard to find a family that is not some way impacted by cancer. So head out to Newton Falls tomorrow for the Southeast game, and make sure you take part in the 50-50 raffle for that Volley for the Cure night in Newton Falls. Really quick, before we get out of here, we also have some soccer games tomorrow. Girls soccer will be on the network as West Branch will travel to Beaver Local. Michael McKenzie will have the call there. Salem goes to Boardman in girls soccer at 1:30. Austintown Fitch will host Uniontown Lake at 3. One boys soccer game happening tomorrow as Ursuline travels to Salem at 1 o'clock. So those are all the games that are happening tonight and tomorrow. Make sure you get out and support. And if you don't want to get out and support for some reason, go head over to ysnlive.com/live. Find all the games absolutely free, thanks to our wonderful sponsors. Also, check out the Audible call tonight. Mike Ackelson, he's out for the week, and DJ Oakley will be taking his spot. So DJ Oakley will have the host of the Audible call at 7 o'clock tonight as well. And that's where we just flip from game to game to game. It's your NFL Red Zone type show for high school football, as we have a bunch of games to flip to on the network tonight. Ty, you'll be in Wadsworth for Fitch Wadsworth, so that'll be a fun one for you. And yeah, that's going to do it for Running Point. Thank you so much for tuning in. Casual Sports Podcast coming up next from 2 to 3. The Power Hour Super Show with all of our picks and more previews of the Friday night action coming up from 3 to 4. And then tune into the Audible Call and all of our action tonight starting around 7 o'clock.